Tonight, what's planned to deal with an impending traffic nightmare?
It's going to encourage me to walk. So I'm happy about that.
Planning to walk to avoid the crawl in the downtown starting Monday? How the city is preparing to move people around when an important stretch of Queen closes to cars for years.
We are unable to find any indication that your Scotia card was compromised. As a result, you are responsible for this transaction.
Plus, why this couple's bank wrote them to refuse to refund money allegedly stolen by fraudsters. We'll break down what police say you need to know about the so-called pizza scam. And we're tracking a washout of a weekend, how much rain is set to fall, and when on Saturday, Toronto is in for a dry period. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Come Monday, rain won't be the only thing slowing traffic in the downtown. Queen Street from Bay to Victoria will be shut down to cars. It is all part of the construction of the Ontario Line subway, and the stretch of Vital Street is set to be closed for 4.5 years. Let's start tonight with Meg Roberts and how people and the TTC are bracing.
This is the first time I heard it. Yeah, it's going to be like a lot of inconvenience on my part because I really live close by.
If you take the 501 streetcar, your Monday morning start may be a bit chaotic. The streetcar will be rerouted onto Dundas Street between McCall and Broadview.
It's inconvenient, but I also appreciate that transit improvements are necessary. If they're happening, let's go. It's about time. Let's get the city running a bit more smoothly.
And at my age, you're not going to worry about something that you can't change.
I would not venture Dundas, even if I had to take King and then walk. But not everyone has that opportunity.
The reason for the detour is due to construction on Metrolink's Ontario line. Come Monday, Queen Street between Bay and Victoria will be shut down to all vehicles, and it will last more than 4 years. CBC News spoke to some businesses here on Queen Street. Many of them didn't want to do an interview because they know that this decision to close this stretch has already been made, but many of those shops said this will have serious impacts on their business.
We are going to have some growing pains.
The TTC says it will add shorter bus services in the downtown core, and come next summer there will be permanent streetcar routes on Adelaide and Richmond. But in the meanwhile,
we don't know where the traffic patterns are going to go, but we're going to closely monitor that. And if we need to make adjustments, either to frequency of service or routing, we'll do that.
The City of Toronto in a statement today saying Dundas Street from Jarvis to Bathurst will be a priority travel route, which means the road will be kept clear of as many restrictions as possible. It's also encouraging anyone traveling downtown to plan their travel in advance, allow for extra time, consider taking public transit or other travel methods, which some are already planning.
It's going to encourage me to walk. So I'm happy about that.
Maybe get a new pair of running shoes?
Yeah, sure.
There's no denying that getting around in the coming months and even years is going to be challenging as construction continues in the city. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, so that Queen closure is anticipated to last for 4.5 years, and you'll forgive Torontonians who are worried it'll last a little longer, especially with what's happened with other major transit projects like the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Today, Metrolinx and the province say they've learned from the delayed and over-budget project. Lorenda Redekop has more on how they think they can avoid the same frustrations.
The Eglinton Crosstown is at least 3 years behind its original schedule, and according to Metrolinx, still has 260 quality issues to be fixed by the consortium involved. 4 large companies that came together to do the work. The government says it's doing things differently going forward.
We package these contracts in a smaller way so that those contractors don't take on as much risk. It's easier to control the schedule. It's easier to control the work.
We reached out to Metrolinx asking how many companies or contracts are involved in the Ontario line and are waiting for a response. One U of T professor says it's a different philosophy now with large building projects.
What we've learned more recently is that the private sector can only bear so much risk. And on these big projects, if they face any challenges and it's only one consortium, it has a cascading effect on the entire project.
But he says there is a risk.
If you've ever even done your own reno and you're the contractor, the handoff between contractors can often be a place where there's ambiguity.
He says the province could learn from what happened on King Street when the city started the streetcar pilot project.
and they were putting out monthly reports so that everyone was seeing what the performance of this project was. And it was very clear then, and it could be debated and discussed within the community. Transparency is key.
It wouldn't avoid delays, but at least the public would be aware. And with the Ontario line set to cover so much ground, many different communities will likely experience the impact. Yesterday, the Premier said despite the impatience and frustration along Eglinton, his government won't rush the project, contrasting it to what happened on Ottawa's LRT that derailed and resulted in a public inquiry.
I'm not going to pull a Mayor Watson in Ottawa, pushing it forward, derailing the LRT in Ottawa, making a total mess of it. We will not move until the whole line is absolutely safe.
And one reality check from the head of Metrolinx as he spoke about the Eglinton LRT.
80 to 90% of megatransit projects across the world typically experience schedule or budget issues.
Right now, the Ontario line is set to open in 2031. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Today is the annual Workers' Day of Mourning in Canada. It is a day to pay tribute to people hurt or killed in a workplace tragedy.
Every worker, as a fundamental right, should be able to go to work and come home safe and sound. They should be able to be free from harm, free from injury, free from illness. And of course, it should go without saying that they should never be worried about losing their life going to work.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh there in attendance at the Labour Council Toronto ceremony this afternoon. He called on leaders of all jurisdictions to do more to enforce current laws to ensure workplace safety. According to ministry data, last year 64 workers were killed in Ontario and more than 2,600 were critically injured. Now to a major ruling affecting nurses working in Ontario hospitals. An arbitrator decided they should get retroactive pay for the 3 years that they were subject to a wage restraint law that has now been ruled unconstitutional. Bill 124 capped wage increases for nurses and other public sector workers at 1% a year for 3 years. It was ruled unconstitutional in November, and even though the government is appealing the ruling, the Ontario Nurses Association sought retroactive pay through an arbitrator. The decision means the nurses will get an additional 0.75% wage increase for 2020. They'll get an additional 1% for the following year and an additional 2% for 2022. To Pickering now, where a long-term care operator is seeking the province's help to build a new facility. The site is currently home to Orchard Villa. That home was part of a scathing military report in 2020 after it recorded one of the worst COVID-19 outbreaks in the province. It's also continued to fail inspections even this year. Dale Manuktuk has the story.
Kathy Parks was shocked when the mayor of Pickering informed her that Southbridge Care Homes has applied for a Minister's Zoning Order, or MZO.
Not only did they apply for the new zoning, but that they circumvented the city and went directly to the province.
Essentially, an MZO overrides municipal zoning bylaws. Why Parks is concerned with this one application is because Southbridge operates Orchard Villa, where her father died, and where the company would build a new long-term care home.
I had to cut his hair for him and do his toenails for him and bring him water because he was left with no water and parched in his bed.
Even the military observed in 2020 a lack of hygiene, dangerous behavior, and poor infection control at the home. As recent as January, it failed several parts of a Ministry of Long-Term Care inspection, including completing a head injury routine after a resident fell and failing to comply with the pain management policy for 2 residents. Still, the ministry is helping Southbridge forge ahead with building and operating a new facility. In a statement, a spokesperson writes in part, to support the government's commitment to build 58,000 new and upgraded long-term care beds by 2028, the Minister of Long-Term Care has requested the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing's consideration of the MZO. But the ministry says no decision has been made yet. Meanwhile, the city of Pickering says it was only notified of this application on Monday and only given 3 days to provide comment. Council will be holding a special meeting next week to further discuss.
And when I saw how uncomplicated it is, and how mysterious it is, and that it doesn't have to be shared with the public, it's very concerning, and it's something that I think everyone should be looking at.
Parks is just hopeful that the ministry denies Southbridge. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Pickering.
Here's a live look at the Toronto skyline, or at least what you can see through all that rain. 8 degrees and very rainy out there. Dahlia Ashry joins us now with the first look at the forecast. And Dahlia, gray skies and plenty of rain on tap through the weekend.
That's right, Chris. I mean, we're kicking off the weekend on a bit of a damp and gloomy note, and that gray stretch will continue over the next few days. So an umbrella is definitely needed, but it's also going to be quite a windy one as well. The daytime high in Toronto today, 13 degrees, a little warmer out in Ottawa, 18 degrees, and we will continue to see these cooler temperatures over the next few days. I mean, overall today, we're sitting just a bit below the average seasonal high. Usually we would be sitting around the 14, close to 15 range, and today is 13. The average low is close to 4, and today was 7, so we're seeing above the low. As for the rain, we are seeing continuing all the way into tomorrow. We're getting a bit of a break on Saturday at around 1 o'clock. We get a bit of just cloudiness, and then the rain's going to go away, and then it'll continue until 9 o'clock. Finally, we get a break, but then the strong rain and winds will continue into Sunday as well. Tonight, we could be seeing rain up to 15 millimeters, and cooler temperatures back to those single digits, 8 degrees, and then tomorrow 13 degrees for the daytime high, and more of that rain.
All right, Dahlia, thank you very much. A new warning tonight from police across the GTA over what is being called the pizza scam. Officers say criminals pretend to be unable to pay for a pizza with cash and then defraud victims who use their debit cards. Clara Pasica has the story of one couple who is now out thousands of dollars.
I don't want to remember that day.
Samjana Shrestha never could have imagined using her debit card to try and help someone could cause her and her family so much hardship. But she and her husband, hit with what police are calling a pizza scam, are now out thousands. The couple says when they parked their car outside a Brampton grocery store, a teenage boy explained he couldn't pay cash for his pizza as what looked like a delivery driver waited in a car marked with a Domino's logo.
He asked me, do you have card? Then I said yes. And I asked that guy, how are you gonna pay me back? Then he told me, I have $20, you can keep my cash.
The payment machine looked normal, but it wasn't.
I first tried to tap. He told me that it's not working, you have to insert. Then I insert my card. I was holding my card and I used my PIN number. I don't know how they stole my PIN number and switched my card.
The next morning, she found $4,300, almost her whole checking account balance, gone.
It's a big money for us. I have 2 kids. One is small baby. You know, like how it's very expensive to raise kids, right? And unfortunately, I had a major surgery, and he's at home to take care of me. Both of we are home. You can imagine how hard this is for us.
The couple says they've tried to get help getting their money back from Peel Police and Scotiabank, but are losing hope, with Scotiabank writing to them saying they are refusing to refund the money.
We are unable to find any indication that your Scotia card was compromised. As a result, you are responsible for this transaction.
Scotiabank wouldn't comment on a specific case, but told CBC News it takes fraud cases very seriously and will work with the victims towards a resolution. Arjun is supposed to be on leave to take care of his new baby and recovering wife. He now feels he has to return to his warehouse job early or the family won't be able to pay bills. He says the incident emptied his wallet, but also hardened his heart.
Now we never help anybody because we are always, scared of getting scammed.
Peel Police say while they have no suspect information to share at this time, their investigation is ongoing. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Brampton.
Coming up, the Leafs are headed to Game 6 after failing to clinch the series last night. Why fans are praying it doesn't go to Game 7 after the break. Hey, welcome back to our show. And if you're a Leafs fan, to a very familiar feeling. Last night, the Leafs lost a chance to close out their Round 1 playoff series against the Lightning. Moving on to the second round of the NHL playoffs is something Toronto has not done in nearly 20 years. And as Greg Ross shows us, last night's loss is an uncomfortably familiar spot.
Leaf fans came ready to celebrate last night. But just one day later, some are not so sure if there'll be any celebration at all this year.
I think it's done. It's over. They lost, and that's it. Thinking they're going to choke?
Don't put it in front. Chance there, rebound, scores! The Lightning have a 2-goal lead.
Despite losing Game 5 last night, the Leafs still lead their best-of-7 series with Tampa 3-2. Yet many fans woke up today feeling haunted by the team's past failures, like losing to Tampa last year, or worse, blowing a 3-1 lead over Montreal 2 years ago to lose that first-round series in 7 games.
Our track record isn't too good.
But Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe says this year feels different to him, and he noticed the difference today in the way the team dealt with their Game 5 loss.
Good energy from the group. You know, we gathered for a meeting here today, and as a coach, before you walk into the meeting, you're always getting a pretty good sense of where the group is at based on the volume or the chatter and the energy of the room when you walk in. And today it was vibrant, so that's a really good sign in terms of our mindset.
Leafs captain John Tavares says the team is still focused on the opportunity they have.
Guys are upbeat. Obviously, turn the page here. Regroup, learn from last night, but at the same time be excited about another opportunity.
But fans say it's important the Leafs seize that opportunity sooner rather than later.
If we don't win Game 6, I think it's over.
It's too stressful. Last night was stressful and it was only Game 5.
Since 2018, the Maple Leafs have played in 10 games where they've had an opportunity to finish off a series, including last night. The Leafs have lost all 10 of those games. They will get another opportunity to try and break that streak tomorrow night when they play Game 6 in Tampa. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so the Leafs need strength for tomorrow night. If only they had the world's strongest man on their side. Turns out he exists right here in Ontario. A Barrie man just won the title of the world's strongest man. It is the first time a Canadian has won the competition in its nearly 50-year history. Ali Chiasson caught up with him at his home gym.
He's 6'3", 320 pounds of pure strength and charm.
I'm wimping out at the pull-ups. It's funny actually, as you get bigger, your strength doesn't increase proportionally. So pound for pound, I'd be much weaker than like a 90-kilo powerlifter. Which is why the ant is one of the strongest animals pound for pound, and an elephant is comparatively very weak. And that's my excuse.
A hero at his home gym, Athletic Culture in Barrie, where Moose Country is emblazoned on the wall.
How long have you had that nickname, Moose?
I started in Australia, so about 3 years. It's not the most original nickname in the world.
For a Canadian?
There's 3 or 4 Moose strongmen, but it took off a lot.
It's stuck.
28-year-old Mitchell Hooper returns to Barrie as a champion after beating legends of the sport.
You might see me as a big guy, but if you saw me amongst all the strongmen, they're different. Like you'll get guys 6'8", 6'9", 400 pounds, just super shredded.
But what's unique to competing in strongman is it's just you versus the 350-pound Atlas stone, or you versus the transport truck you gotta pull as far as you can. It takes a certain kind of person to succeed in this competition, a person like Hooper. For him, mind over matter comes naturally.
It's a lot of pressure, and so going into the last event, I was 5.5 points up on the reigning world's strongest man, who happens to be the best stone lifter in the world by quite a margin. I also, last year at Worlds, I hurt myself on the stones and ended up coming 9th out of 10. On that last stone, there was like a total Disney moment where I had the stone in my lap and I literally straight over the stone to the right a little bit. It was my fiance like bent over, like all nervous, got a good grip, and then when it went on the platform, it's almost just total relief. I am the strongest man in the world.
It's a pretty cool title.
Yeah.
But for Hooper, it's about more than that. His life's work as an exercise physiologist is about encouraging people to be their best and healthiest selves.
Now, to become the world's strongest man, I exercise 15 hours a week in the gym. If you boil that down to a more modest goal of I just want to become a healthier version of myself, if you spend 150 minutes a week going out and generally moving, getting your heart rate up a little bit, walking the dogs, doing something you enjoy, you might not become the strongest man in the world, but you surely become a healthier version of yourself.
So inspiring. I'm going to go to the gym now. I promise.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Barrie.
All right, so it is pouring outside tonight, and it is going to be coming down all throughout the weekend. Let's get back to Dahlia now with your full forecast. And Dahlia, while some people are looking forward to all this rain, I'm thinking not everybody is.
Chris, a bit of a doomsday feeling today on Friday, and as we head into the weekend as well, we will continue to see those gloomy and rainy conditions as well because of that moisture that's moving in, giving us those rainy conditions. So you will need your umbrella over the next few days, even heading into the beginning of next week. But the daytime high today in Toronto, 13 degrees, a little warmer out in St. Catharines, 17 degrees, and in Ottawa, 18. So we are sitting a bit below the seasonal average high. Usually it would be close to 14 degrees, and today it was at 13. Now we are seeing those strong damp conditions moving its way through, and that's even giving a bit of a heavy rainfall. Up to 50 millimeters is possible for Oshawa and the surrounding region in Kingston, and possibly even some severe thunderstorms as well. So there is a warning for that part of the province as well. Now we are seeing that heavy rainfall. As you can see, all that green. There is thunderstorm possibilities for Goderich, and we're going to continue to see the rain moving in through all the way into Toronto as well and the surrounding areas. The rain will start to dissipate around 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, and then we'll slowly see that it will pick back up again on Sunday overnight in the morning, and then we will see a little bit of that calmness around Sunday in the morning, but then it will pick back up later on in the evening. And like I said, we are going to be seeing strong winds tonight heading into tomorrow as well. Winds could be gusting up to 57 kilometers an hour here in Toronto and surrounding areas as well. Sarnia, 51 kilometers an hour. Now, as we head into Saturday morning, up to 51 kilometers an hour. So still those strong winds up until tomorrow as well. And then it'll start to calm down in Toronto. It'll go to 30 kilometers an hour, but still quite a windy one as well. And then as we head into Sunday, we'll continue to see those strong winds. As for tonight, temperatures will drop back down to those single digits, 8 degrees for tonight. As you can see across the Golden Horseshoe, we have that precipitation looming through. And like I said, Oshawa, a warning of up to 70 millimeters of rain. So Saturday, Sunday, rainy conditions continuing up until even your commute on Monday, and on Wednesday, a bit of a possibility of some sunshine.
All right. Thank you, Dahlia. A bit of a possibility. I liked how she said that. All right. So this weekend, you've got some rain and some wind. Watch out for those umbrellas. And thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has you covered at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and I'll see you back here at 11 on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.